we'll get started.
John, here comes John.
Okay, so welcome everybody. My name is Wayne Caragino. I work for the city. I'm the assistant city manager. This is the second meeting of the City Hall Review Group. There was an agenda that went out. It was posted on, I believe, our webpage. So this meeting, I'm going to just turn it over to you guys. I'm not here to direct the committee. I'm not here to steer the committee. We're here to just get your comments and your opinions and take it all in. So I'm going to turn it over to you. You can run the meeting however you wish. I got some information from Mr. Anderson, which I think he furnished to everyone up there. So I'm sure you're going to talk about that, Rick?
Sure, yeah.
One thing before we go, Scott Maxim, who is a city staff member that was on this committee, has resigned. His last day will be next Wednesday, and so he's not going to be attending any more meetings.
Okay.
So the idea too, I'll put it out there up front. We had planned on 3 meetings, so this is the second meeting. So next week, I'd like to have a meeting. The last meeting, maybe Monday, if everyone is available at 3 o'clock.
Mike's going to be out of town, I think.
Yeah, next week I'll be out.
Yeah, I'm out of town too.
When will you be back, Mike?
April 1st.
So, can you get us your comments?
That's the following week, right?
That would be if you're leaving on the 1st. I think the 1st is a Saturday, so we wouldn't be. So it
Yeah,
would
the
be,
3rd. I'm back.
He's
the 3rd.
getting back on. You're getting back then.
I'll be back on the 1st. That's a Saturday, I think. I'm trying to get my calendar.
So we wouldn't be able to meet until the 3rd. The reason we're pushing this is, to be frank with you, the whole project has come to a complete stop as far as the architect and the general contractor, because they're waiting for us to furnish comments to them, and the stoppage has been now for probably close to a month, and by the time this plays out, time is money. Time is also an issue with lead time items. The transformer for the new building, lead time in the range of 50 to 52 months, or I'm sorry, weeks.
Wow.
So, close to a year. The generator lead time, 6 to 8 months.
Well, that's not going to be, this meeting, whether we go a week or not, it isn't going to make a difference. You're going to need a generator. You're going to need a transformer. That needs to be ordered, right?
Yeah, but I don't have enough information to get an FPL's queue. They want at least a preliminary electrical floor plan. They want to see a riser drawing. They want to see things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So the next step when we're done here, as far as a design build project, and I'll shut up after this and sit down, but it will be a presentation to the commission to execute the second part of the contract for a design build, and that's to develop the GMP. It's a guaranteed maximum price. That gives them the go-ahead to bring it to probably about 60% and lock in a price, and then we'll take it from there. They'll lock in a price and they'll lock in a time frame.
Yeah.
And the time frame will be subject to liquidated damages. The time frame should be anywhere. It should be the 12 to 14 month range to build this structure. So with that, I'll turn it over. The drawings are up here. I can flip through them if you want to refer to one of these.
I would
drawings.
suggest, Wayne, that you stay there, because you basically, sometimes we go off on tangents and you have a response saying, oh, don't even need to be talking about that because that can't happen, or it can happen. Like at our last meeting, there were a lot of things we started talking about, and you said, well, you can't do it because of this or that, and kind of redirects us, to keeps us going rather than going out in the weeds.
Okay,
Just
yeah,
as a
and
thought.
if there's anything historical on how we got to this point, I'll
Right.
interject. But also, I see, public here, and I'm sure they're here for public comment, so we want to hear from you guys too. So whenever you feel, you want to call public comment,
Well,
If I could, Tim, I'd like to tag on to what you said, because I think that's fundamental to where we go with our conversation. So I would just tag on, are there any constraints that we have on this project that we shouldn't go into the certain territories? I mean, are there constraints at this point, or are there no constraints?
well, I would say that the area on this area on the second floor, with the exclusion of the commission room and the lobby, is very much locked in.
So if you lock in floor plans, you're locking in the building and the size of the building, all those things are locked. Would that be correct? If a floor plan
It would be
becomes
locked
in-
to the extent that when we start to look at the guaranteed maximum price, we might have to rein it in. In other words, it'll shrink, but it won't expand.
Okay.
it basically needs that floor space allocated for those individuals working there, but it could be in a different,
Geometry.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So as long as we have the square footage, it's,
Now, if I got it right, the square footage is 130 by 130? Is that what we're
In
talking
that
about?
range, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, 130 by 130.
I'm 35.
35, yeah, seven columns.
Structural.
135 by
The
130?
structural
Okay.
grid's 135 by 135.
Okay.
Yeah, it's square.
All right. Okay.
Are we
Yep,
ready?
we're
Yeah,
talking.
go ahead, I'm gonna sit down.
I took a look at this, and relative to what we talked about last time, I think we're gonna park under the building. That pretty much sets the footprint of the building. You have to have something that works in terms of cars getting in and parking there. The grid that they proposed works pretty damn well, actually. I took a look at that, and in fact, I think with some improvements, I could get more like about 32 cars parked under there without changing the grid at all. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. I think that pretty much sets so I'm satisfied with the positioning and the 135-foot square layout of the building. As I stated last time, the two things that were important to me was I'd like to see the stage detached and located in a different direction, not be attached to the building. And the other thing I'd like to see is the plan flipped over so the offices are on the north side of the building, and we can actually have windows where the offices would see out. And I think that's pretty easy to achieve. I did a very simplified little diagram. Of how that would work. This is staying with the grid that they provided. You want to copy this, Wayne? I tried not to get into detail because we're really talking about the really general idea of the building. But if the pink would be the office area, and the blue would be the public areas, the commission room and other public areas, and the gray there is the toilet core and other facilities. I put a little circle in there. That would be the lobby with the stair and the elevator open into there. This would work extremely well, and it would give you a view out on the west, on the north, and actually on the east side of the building. And I think it would be a much better building, and would function much better because it's pretty much a flexible area that you could work on. I think this is what I would propose. This would be a colonnade leading to an entrance underneath into that lobby area, off the colonnade, come up the stair into a lobby area, and then into here. One thing that occurred to me is we've got to zone this building differently during the daytime than we do in the evenings. You could come up and in the evening, the blue area would be where I would put the public rooms, the conference rooms, yet you wouldn't, the pink area, the office area would be totally secured at night when public meetings are held. I made that possible by shifting the stair to this front so that you still got two ways out of the building, two stairs. And in terms of the overall circulation of the building, this would seem to work very well to me. So I think the fact that we could do that, if we could get 32 parking spaces on the building, I think we could meet the parking requirement without having those cars out in the plaza, and all that area would be available for the plaza.
What's the direction on this, Mike?
North is up,
Well,
pink, up,
pink is up. Okay, so that's north, so that's Minutemen Causeway.
right.
If I may, I think the whole plot plan is wrong.
I don't, I'm sorry, I think it's spot on.
Okay, it's just
I think it's based on the parking, and when we said we're gonna park on the building, if we're gonna do that efficiently, this seems to be a good place to put it, and allows the possibility of putting a parking deck to the south in the future, because there would be nothing blocking that.
Okay.
So that seems like a pretty good scheme to me.
well, is it a discussion?
Yeah, there's, absolutely,
Yeah,
there's
Yeah,
discussion.
Yeah, I think, Mike, are you wrapping up?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
I think that was a good start, but Rick, you also have another thought. I think we should go into Rick's thought.
Yeah, I think that the whole plot plan is wrong. It looks to me, when I look at this, it looks to me like we've designed a city hall around a bandstand. Putting it on the back of the lot makes no sense to me at all. The city hall should be right on the street corner, right the most visible street corner as you come down A1A. I put a little curve on there. I kept the square footage about the same. Now, that could be made a square building, and it would fit on there. I think the green space should be behind the building, where it's kind of an oasis, as opposed to being on A1A, where you're going to hear motorcycles and subwoofers and trucks and everything else going by. I don't know how, in this little picture here, they allowed for this 82 by 122 drainage facility. It's a retention pond without water in it, whatever you want to call it, but there's a massive drain right there, which, if the city hall was on the corner here, you'd have the green space, which would be an oasis away from A1A, and this drainage structure, whatever you want to call it, could actually be part of the green space. And what I would propose to do is the parking area in the back behind the fire station, there's a little drain underneath there, but I drew out a square right there, and I would simply build a structure above the existing parking spaces and make more parking spaces out of it. Now, I didn't take into account the spaces that might be under the building, but I got a net loss of 14 parking spaces with this design here, and I'm seeing a massive parking lot along A1A. It just doesn't make sense to me. None of it makes sense to me. There's no entrance from the street to City Hall.
Well, you've raised the question on the site plan, and I think that's paramount to what we're doing. To me, that's the number one priority, is if you don't even know where the building's gonna go, it's hard to go deeper. So I kind of think we need to resolve this. Now, I'm not saying I do agree or not agree, but I think as a task force, I think we have to determine the site before we can really get into lower level details.
Yeah. The other
In
consideration,
all fairness, I would not let an existing drainage area rule the site plan.
no,
It's not.
We didn't do that in the police building. We actually store underneath
and they could put some filtration system, just like they did in the streets, rather than having the
Exfiltration.
exfiltration. Yeah, so all the water actually goes down to these big drums underneath, basically, that have baffles and whatnot, and filter the water slowly, like we have all up and down.
Well, that's all fair.
So as far as the building, taking up that drainage, they're gonna have that underneath. I'm assuming that's gonna happen anyway with this building. That's part of it, correct?
Stormwater retention.
I don't know if it's stormwater. retention.
Possibly, I mean, at this point, something will have to be done so that the stormwater is retained on site.
Yeah.
Yeah, exfiltration is very common now. We did, like you said, we did it in the police department,
Yeah,
and that was sometimes it's a half circle in shape pipe. It's like a pipe that's cut in half. They'll put that down, fill over it, and those chambers fill up. That one happened to be just pipe that was all connected, and if it gets to the point where it can't handle the amount of runoff into it, it'll pop off into another structure, but chances are there'll be exfiltration somewhere on site, yes.
okay.
Let me ask this about the site, okay? Rick has proposed moving the building to the east. Mike has some thoughts on the building, but the building would stay as originally cited. Let me ask about that site question. Is there synergy by trying to keep the building location close to where a garage might someday be? Is there synergy, or is it okay if they're separated? Because originally, Wayne, you said that if a municipal parking garage were ever to be built, you wanted to build it on the south side of the building and possibly actually adjoin it to the building. Is there a benefit to that, or is that the same as having two standalone buildings like this? I mean, what is the benefit to having them adjoined? I got a follow-up question after you answer that one.
Well,
Did Jacobs give you any, was there any background?
the main benefit of joining them would be the fact that you could get more out of the building. You could get more out of the parking structure. You could get more, because if you don't join them, you'd have to keep a distance, which would have to be determined away from the other structure for fire safety.
Fire lane, so you're saying you could avoid a fire lane? You could avoid a fire
I mean,
lane?
you know, there was benefits to join the buildings at one point in this project because we were trying to share staircase and elevator. That is not going to be feasible because the way it's going now, there's not going to be a parking garage there.
I think it just simplifies the site plan. You just want to cut it up into a whole bunch of little pieces. It's better if you keep areas open and large and keep the buildings all in one area. It simplifies the site plan.
Yeah, I would agree with
So
that.
I would keep your focus on the city hall.
Yeah.
Okay.
At this point, there's not going to be a parking garage.
Okay, so basically for citing the building, we don't really need to think about a garage. So you could move the building where you think it serves the city the best.
Well, you guys can do whatever you want. I mean, what we do.
Well, I'm talking out loud.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're not constrained by the possibility of a future parking garage.
No.
right. We talked about that, I think, a little bit, is, you know, it seems like the consensus of the commission is that we are not gonna have a parking garage. So I think we should go in that direction. And like Mike said, with the windows, we want windows on the north side.
Right.
For a couple reasons. One, we've got a lot of launches. In the next couple of years, there's going to be a launch every day. In 2 years, there'll be a launch every single day. In 5 to 10 years, there's going to be multiple launches every day. It's going to be almost out of control. I mean, it's awesome. I love it. I mean, I'm being an engineer and science guy, but there are a lot of people don't. My dog won't like it. I know that. But that being said, you got windows on the side. You know, you've got viewing. We've got. I don't know if we're going to have our per the design up here. We've got our city hall. I mean, our meeting room or commission room in the northeast corner. And I noticed there were no windows except on the back looking straight east. We need windows on the north side also, in my opinion, if we're going to go with this. And I like Mike's idea of keeping it where it is, but redesigning some of those, just moving some things around like he's done. Although you've got the commission meeting room down here though, on the South
south
side.
side.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I may, this building could be squared. That's a rough drawing.
Yeah.
That
And
building
it's
could be
my
squared.
experience that the simplest diagram's usually the best. When they start to get contorted and confused, there's something wrong with the diagram. And I like the simplicity of this diagram.
Yeah.
You come into a lobby and back, and you can put that human resources in this bottom corner there where it's close to the lobby and people will come in. And I would land the conference rooms along this other wall where we have this, passageway here, so that you want to avoid people traipsing through the office area. It's disruptive. You want the community to be able to hear and meet. So I would put all those conference rooms that are available there so that people never get back into the office area. They can be met out here. So there's some other things that I'm showing in this diagram that I think are also important. That's why that corridor really works well. By moving that stair there, we've eliminated a stair because we've always got two ways out, either during the day or at night. Yet you can secure this office area and people aren't traipsing through it. You kind of control access by the public.
I think that's an important aspect. That's a good point, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, because there could be after-hour usage of the building where the offices need to be quarantined so people can't get in.
Yeah.
That's an excellent idea.
Yeah. And you mentioned also that you'd like to have the stage area separate.
Right.
Well, the way it's built, it's kind of it's not just a stage. There's going to be equipment, electronics and whatnot.
There's an IT room adjoined to it.
Basically, for that. So if you have it separate, you're going to have to build another building, another structure.
Right.
You'd have to cable over to it.
Well, yeah.
But it would leave the city hall then prominent and open and a statement on its own.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining with that stage facing that way, and I think that the stage, the positioning of the stage, I think, was a critical design factor in the placement of the building in the first place, because I think whoever put it there wants the stage to face that way so that the music goes that way. And I think that was a big factor in placing the city hall there, because I think if you took that stage feature out of there, I don't think there's any other logical reason to put that city hall there in that position. I think it would be pretty much assumed that it would be back on the street corner where it belongs. Now, I'm also picturing, now that we have Area 142, I'm picturing 142 with a giant stage aiming music that way and our stage aiming music that way at the same time. And it just doesn't make sense to me. So I think it seems to me that we started with a stage and a green space, and we're talking AstroTurf, like an AstroTurf jungle, just green space. It seems like the whole design is built around Friday Fest and concerts.
Yeah, I think that stage is shown and there's limited. It's too small for one thing. You couldn't. It's really not usable for anything because it's too small.
You know what the size of that is? Do you recall? I think it's fairly large.
It's 45 feet.
45
Yeah, it's
feet.
45 feet.
I know,
What's
but it's a
one of the
circular.
trailer, Main Street Trail or Friday Fest stages? They're not 45 feet.
Oh, no, that's small. That's
Yeah,
very
this
small.
is twice as big as a stage we use for Friday Fest. To me, that seems like it's ample. You don't think that's ample?
Well, yeah, the curve is a problem. You can't
Well,
really use.
the curvature makes it less efficient, but it's 45 by 15 or 18 feet. It's fair. That's a lot of square footage. I don't see the stage being too small. I do, like Rick said, I do like it facing east. The thing that I see is that from last meeting, I felt the green space was too small. I thought in my mind, when the building went in, the green space would be extremely large, and to me, it didn't turn out that way. So even though it's more than what we used to have, I don't think you can get a lot of people on that green space.
Well, I'm really bothered.
And the other thing is, the stage is facing east, which is the same direction that most of our stages for events faced east. But it's facing east on Minuteman, where the thousands of people, like last Friday night, are on the street that's blocked off, and this stage is facing east. But if you want to look at the stage, you would have to be on Orlando to look at it, and we don't close Orlando generally. So even though it faces east, the people are going to be on Minuteman, and you're looking at the stage from an angle, whereas now you look at the stage dead on, now you're looking at it from an angle. That looks a little bit awkward to me.
Do you understand that I'm talking about eliminating the parking that's out in the green
Yes,
space?
I heard you say that. So you've
So you
expanded.
picked up a lot of area.
You've expanded the green space.
And I would put it there, because then the stage faces the north, and sun's not in the eyes
Well,
of people who are performing.
How about go in between you two, one east and one north, have it go northeast. So if it were on the corner of the building,
Well, I know we were very,
and then that gives you the diagonal of the entire area, including the street, Minutemen, and
I think we want to keep the masses on Minuteman. And Friday Fest brings so many people that green space can't hold those people. That's only a fraction of the amount of people. And you want the people to be on Minuteman, not Orlando. So that would help it by facing it in that direction. I mean, that's kind of what I saw too. I like facing east, but I don't like the fact that you're on Minuteman looking sideways at the stage. So to me, I could go with being northeast.
yeah,
How do you feel
we were
about it?
very critical about the architects in the last meeting, but once we got out of here and I sat down and looked at the plan, I realized that there was a lot of sense to it. It works well for the circulation of parking underneath, which kind of sets the footprint. There were a lot of good things in the plan. I'm just trying to make it simpler, shore it up, and get a nice rectangle in there.
The square is very efficient. Originally, I didn't like it because I thought it was unimaginative. It's a square, but when you look at it, yeah, I think with some tweaks, it's actually a very efficient building, which would probably mean low cost. So, and it takes good use of the site that we have, right? It takes less site by going square. The only thing you could do to take less site would be go higher. And we did talk about possibly another level. That, to me, that has some merit. And I know the higher you go, the more the incremental building cost is, but that would allow us to take less site and expand the open space.
well, that's something I want to find out is if we reduce the footprint and go up, that's different from just going up and making, doubling the square footage. I'm talking about keeping the same square footage, only reducing the footprint.
Right, and I think there's merit to that.
But
Yeah.
the parking
You would-
requirement sets the footprint.
Well, you would lose parking,
Yeah.
but why couldn't we have some ancillary parking on the outside?
Would there be any sentiment for, I mean, if you look in my graph, if utilizing the parking lot that exists behind the fire station already and just building it up, just building a second tier on it? Keeping the parking off of A1A so it's not the prominent feature of the building, and building a second tier back there. And a benefit to a second tier would be that in the event of a flood, because we are thinking wash through, in the event of a flood, if you had a second tier parking, you could park all your emergency vehicles up there, and they'd be safe from the flooding.
So you're actually proposing like a mini garage?
Well, yeah, I stay away from the word garage because
Yeah,
it's
okay,
politically
but
charged, but if you look at this,
elevated parking, it's a one-floor parking garage.
yeah, if you look at this area back there, well, this is what's there now. This little paper here is what's there now. So if you square this out here and just build another tier above it for parking, you're putting your ugly parking on Brevard Avenue away from the feature part of the building, so it's not the most prominent thing on that you see on A1A.
I think we're getting, I get what you're saying, increasing the parking, but the commission is not going to go for that. I mean, it's just, if you're going to put a parking garage in there, it's going to be a parking garage or not.
I think it's all or
And
nothing. All or
as it
nothing.
is now, they're not going to put a parking garage in.
I think the current commission is not going to fund a parking garage. Doesn't mean there wouldn't be one in the future.
That's true, that's true.
So, to me, it would be prudent, if you could, to plan for it so that it would fit in the future.
I think there's
Somebody
no-
else, when may decide that is a good investment.
And think.
I'm just talking about right now, as far as what we need to talk about is the footprint of where the city hall goes.
Right.
Doesn't matter whether there's a parking garage or not.
Right, but I think there's some merit if we can do this, to maintaining the future possibility. Because it was only, 5 years ago, we built the one municipal garage we have, and that was gonna solve all the problems. 5 years ago, it was gonna solve all the problems. Now we need 600 more spaces. We need 2 more of those garages. That garage has 243 spaces,
Well, it could've
and now
gone
we
up.
need twice that.
There's
So,
a couple levels.
okay, but I'm just saying, we thought that was the answer 5 years later, now we got parking garages all over the place.
Yeah.
So I think if we don't lose any value today, and we can maintain the ability to make that decision in the future, we're better off. If we do something that eliminates that possibility, then that would be a mistake.
Can I interject for a sec?
Sure.
I want to make a point, but some public comment.
Sure.
Well, people want to make a couple of public comments, but just remind me after that to give you an update on what's going on in Tallahassee with this project. Okay?
Okay.
And I'll keep you in suspense until after this.
Thank you. Can't wait.
Kathy, I'm sorry, Kathy, I don't know your last name, but you can introduce yourself.
Anderson.
But Kathy wants to make a couple comments.
Kathy Anderson.
Conflict of
How
interest.
handsome the committee is, but.
Well, one of them for sure.
I married her, so.
Kathy, it's all yours.
Hi. I have a few comments. I'm not an architect. I was seriously involved with designing a 5-story bank in the city I lived in. So I have some opinions. I may not agree with you. The bottom floor, where Mike is talking about all of the parking spots, why is there a community room on the bottom floor of that building when it's supposed to be like a wash through in case there's a hurricane? Mm-hmm. That room will be destroyed. I don't know if they're going to heat it or air condition it or what, but it seems to me that the whole bottom should be for customers and employee parking for that building. I don't think residents should park there and then go downtown to the beach or whatever. On a weekend, maybe, if that's what you decide, but not during the week. I think it should be totally for employees and citizens who need the services of the city hall. One. Secondly, I don't like a bandstand. We have too many bandstands downtown. There's a lot of competing music. I don't hear it where I live, so I'm all right with that. But I think there's just too much going on with the different bands. If you take that away, you'll have more space. And as far as green space is concerned, I think it should be an area where employees could take their lunch, people could sit and have an ice cream, kids could play in a water fountain or something. I think it should be for that purpose. That's my personal opinion. I don't know how you all feel about it, but that's how I feel about it. So if you have any questions with my thoughts.
I can make a statement.
Okay.
The area that you're talking about for groups to come, that's being set aside for Freedom 7. Right now, they come in here. And Freedom 7 is a big group that of folks that do a lot of things for the community, and they'll have Zumba classes and different events. They play cards, and ladies come in and do that. It's also a location for events, so it's indoor. There'll be a kitchenette in there and whatnot, and I believe it's going to be AC'd, I would assume. And but as when you're speaking of wash through, it'd be easy to repair. Yeah, the buildings I'm sure will be concrete and whatnot, but everything in it, we're not going to have computers and
Sheetrock.
But my question is, why does Freedom 7 need space in the city hall? They have this entire building.
Well, that's just it. This is the country club. It's not Freedom 7's building, and we can use this space for so many other things, for other events and whatnot. And it's just being underutilized in that respect.
Okay.
This is a rented space that we can't rent now because the commission room is here, and Freedom 7 is what, the next room over? And these are typically rented spaces, and the city is not garnering any revenue because they can't rent them.
So Freedom 7 rents the space they use for whatever?
No.
But they don't. They're given the
I
space.
think it's a handshake, yeah. And I think one of the beauties of this thing that Tim's talking about, or what Kathy, that you're talking about, that 2,000 square foot area, it's lower cost because it's built at grade, and it is primarily for the Freedom 7, but it is not exclusively for them. When they are not there, then that's available for other things. Like Tim said, events, we could rent that space. It could be rented for, a banquet or whatever. So that could also be a very small revenue stream too. We're kind of compelled to give them some space, and if we didn't put it there, if you try to move it up into the second floor, then it becomes more costly to put 2,000 feet up in the second level. So we would have to find some other place for them, but the goal was to try to move them out of the country club so we can rent and give them that space since we're building from scratch.
Okay.
But it is in the wash-through, so it's sacrificial. If we get a storm surge, it's sacrificial. It's going to be damaged, but it's going to be built out of materials that are going to be more durable.
Okay. But I still like my idea of a green space
Yeah.
being for recreational purposes
Yeah.
and for staff being able to have lunch outdoors if they choose. And I think it should be a playful type of area.
Well, and from that perspective, there is a group that is organized, has been put together, a committee for the green space. So I'm not sure when that meeting is, Wayne.
Okay.
I think it's next week.
Yeah.
It's posted on our webpage.
I think it's
Okay.
sooner than that.
Yeah.
I think it's sooner than that.
Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Kathy, thank you so much.
Oh, John, do you have something to say?
I got one or two.
I bet you
Let
do.
me- John, you.
There's no doubt in my mind.
You can have it for as much, let me just give you.
All right.
So about a month ago, Robin Hayes, our city manager, Brad Calso, who's our water rec director, and myself, we went up to Tallahassee. It was before the session started, and we now have lobbyists.
Right.
Ray Robinson is our lobbyist. So we applied for appropriations funds, and we went for $1.5 million for the wash-through area. So Kathy, the wash-through area is sacrificial, like John said, or Tim. So it'll be unfinished in the sense that there won't be drywall on, and the doors can be opened, and so it'll sustain some damage, but the structure will remain in place.
Right.
And that's being pitched to them as a hardening, and it's a hot topic now. And since the storm on the West Coast, the governor is very much in tune with that. So it's survived the session, and it's a line item.
Oh, good.
So that doesn't mean that the governor has the ability to line item veto. But this project, out of the three that we pitched, because you go in there, they call it a one-pager, and you go into the the senators, whoever you can get in from our area. We met with Debbie Mayfield, Senator Mayfield, and some others, in this area or that are on influential committees, and you pitch your project to them, and so this is survived, and I mean that's great. If we get $1.5 million, it would be earmarked for the raising of the building in the wash-through area.
Right, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
that's similar to what we did with the seawall, and got that money from
Exactly,
the
yep.
state.
Yep.
And as I recall, we had a little bit extra. We didn't use it all, and we gave it back because, hey, in good faith, that's the right thing to do, right? And so that should be on. I don't know if you could throw that in if you already pitched it, but if there's any other conversation, that could be thrown
I'd have to
in.
get our
Yeah, they were-
lobbyists to look. Last year, I got a $12 million appropriation for that capping project.
Yeah.
And the way that worked was, it came to us through a grant that they gave it to DEP, and DEP administers the distribution of the money through a grant.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this will come through, and I mean, hopefully this comes through, because that's great. We also pitched a project, a little bit off track here, but real quick, Brad has a slip lining project, which is to save our sewer infrastructure. I won't go into details on that, and the other one was Bicentennial Park.
Right.
And it was, I don't know, close to $2 million on that. That's gonna be an expensive proposition, but that should survive also. So anyway, I'll let John, you wanna come up and
I got 1 or 2 or 10. I
take
mean,
the time?
I wish I had some liquids, I would be coughing so bad. One of the things, what you were saying was the site location. I totally agree, bringing it toward A1A, but change it to a rectangular shape. You still use your same parking space. Say where the park on the left-hand side of the greenway, the green space area, you still cover the same parking spaces, but rectangular. But if you put your green space on the back, then you'll have a larger green space if you go from square to rectangle. That make sense? Okay. And then when you do the parking underneath the building, make sure you got access 2 different directions. Makes it a lot easier for cars to get in and out versus traffic jamming. Make sure they go out on the back of the road, boulevard, on that side. The stage, it could be on the south side facing north. So you're not going, the sound is not going back to the residential this direction. It's going toward the businesses on the north side of Minuteman. When Mike has a good layout with his changes with the layout with that, for one main reason is he puts a conference room and restroom in the same area. What you have right now, you got the conference room and a restroom totally opposite side of the building. And there's no security between those offices at all. So anybody can run around anywhere they want to and do what they want to do. So you need to make sure your restrooms, not necessarily right beside the conference room, wherever it may be, but have it close to it, so all other rooms can be secured for that. Also, when you rotate the location and put the, you pretty well rotate it, I think, 90 degrees. Is that right, Mike?
What's that?
Like they're about rotating everything pretty well 90 degrees, the location of the offices?
It's more of a flip.
Did you propose
I thought,
rotating the building? 90
like,
degrees?
you're talking about putting offices, or somebody said on the west, the north, and the east side.
No, my proposal was leave it exactly the same. I think they were pretty clever in the way they did that. If you'll take a look at the original plan, they had a sunscreen along here on the west side of the building, and the west sun was really bad. And I think that was a really good feature. That's what this little, along the left side, that would be, is some sort of sunscreen there that would protect that area.
Well, I'm saying
And on the east and on the west, but you don't need it on the north, so.
what I'm
I
saying is
would leave it exactly the way it is.
You want to have your building located the right directions for your HVAC design and expense for your HVAC system. That's what type of work we've done for many years, HVAC design, so I learned that long time ago. You were talking about the launch viewing. I don't know, anybody thought about building a roof viewing up with the barriers around so people could be up on that? I've not heard anything about, I don't see the roof design package, all I see is the second floor. That's one thought about doing something like that. Again, you still gotta have your 2 egress for that too. Y'all think I'm crazy with this one. When you get ready to put the grass on there, use Provista St. Augustine grass.
St. Augustine?
Provista. That's what I used on my yard. I did a lot of research to do the side, and through a professor from up in Gainesville, his WebEx talking to all the side growers. You see, every one of your yard, you got weed on it, and you can't get rid of it, right? You don't find that in my yard. You just use a prosecutor, which is a commercial weed killer. You spray that, It does not kill the grass, but the bonus is, the professor's data shows your average mowing on regular St. Augustine is 35 times a year. Provista, 15 times a year.
You need to talk to the golf course superintendent.
I mean,
I'm
that's,
telling you, the Provista,
I mean, that's,
something needs to be done
and
there.
when I asked, and the price for that, the regular St. Augustine was 25 cents a square foot, Provista, 30 cents. So 5 cents more a square foot. There's no discussion about the
Yeah.
cost versus maintenance. Again, the layout, make sure the layout gets it with your word part, your HVAC design, which is gonna save you electricity bills or gas, whatever you use it for heating. And again, if you go with the rectangular shape, move it toward the front, and the rectangle longer this way over here. So you got more green space on the back from that. So what it means, I'm taking this line here, and moving it back there, so you make a larger green space. And you still got a parking space on the side from that. You don't lose any parking space at all. I think that's all I can think of so far. Any questions, let me know.
All right.
I think there was some good comments in there that I liked.
Yeah.
I like the thought that the commission room and the bathroom should be possibly closer together, because there's a lot of bathroom trips when there's 50 people in the room and they're on opposite sides of the building. To me, that's a sensible floor plan comment.
Is that's what Mike has here, right? Where the bathrooms are right here and
So that,
conference room
okay, so
there.
that's.
Yeah, I'd left those kind of where they are. They're near the lobby, which is, I think, where they ought to
So then
be.
you come in here, you go by the bathrooms and into the,
When you do that, you gotta think of people on the opposite side of the building also. They're gonna walk all the way around to do that. So you may wanna put it across the hallway, so they can come out from either directions to that. And just to be thinking about that too. You don't want two bathrooms, so it's gonna cost more money for that. Lose it off.
I do think there's merit.
Mike, the only issue to that is that we wouldn't have those bathrooms, right above the other bathrooms down on the first floor, right?
They're not now. I didn't change that.
Yeah, they're not now. That's an added.
Oh, they aren't now.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah.
Why? Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
good point.
Should be.
Moving the building toward A1A, it does give you more effective green space. I think it actually does do that. Because when you have two large buildings, like the firehouse and the proposed site for the city hall, and they're diagonally opposite, you're carving up the available square footage. You're making the available square footage smaller plots. So I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm just saying I do think you yield green space. Just as a point of matter, because that's one of the things I think is if we can expand the green space, I like it. Now, your plan, Mike, takes those 35 spaces that are in the middle of that site and it eliminates them because the parking is underneath the building.
Right.
So if you could expand the green space by taking those 35 places, I also see that as a benefit. All I'm saying is that's a second way of expanding green space. You could take those 35 spots, or you could move the building to A1A, you get the same result.
And again, I would like to avoid vehicular circulation through the site.
Yeah.
And I would like to eliminate the parking that's out in the site. And that's why getting underneath the building as much as we could paid
Yeah.
big benefit in that regard.
Yeah, I think it does.
I have a big issue with the parking out front like that. Just
So
from an aesthetic point of view, I think it's.
Right.
I mean, it looks all pretty now, but a parking lot's a parking lot, and it's dirty and it's grimy and it attracts trash.
So that kind of satisfies.
So that, yeah, I mean, I really don't like that parking out there.
It seems like we have a pretty good agreement on the.
On one point.
Yeah, 1 point.
So I have something about what if we moved as you, John and Rick have said, moving the building out to A1A, we still need parking underneath it. So where do you enter for that parking? You would still have to enter from Brevard and have a road that goes all the way up through this area to get to that building, right?
Say that again,
Well, now you're putting parking underneath the building.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what we're doing. I mean, because we're gonna have a wash through,
You
so.
have to do that.
Yeah.
It's wasted space if you don't.
So is that gonna come through, I guess, by the fire station?
Well,
Better from the backside, but still coming away.
well, you'd have,
I mean, then we've got two parking base, major parking areas going, basically entering from the east and the west at the same location on Orlando.
well, I assume you're going to go to a square building from the rectangular building that I have there. You have approximately.
Well, you'd have to drive in from here, right? From
Well, this is the
Orlando.
this is the existing driveway with the existing 10 parking spaces across from the fire station. So that this driveway could be utilized. I put a walkway there. I put a tree line paver walkway into there to get back into the green space. That was my proposal. But this area here is about 30 feet wide between what I put there for the drain, and I know that's very flexible. So there's actually plenty of room for a drive along the back of the building there, across from the green space. There's quite a bit of room there. And I don't think that proposing a second tier on top of, higher than that existing parking behind the fire station, I don't think that that's necessarily a non-starter with the commission. That's not a garage. You're actually just building a parking lot, and you're still utilizing the spaces underneath. So that's not a parking garage as such. And I think if you gave 35 parking spaces up there, and if you got 35 underneath it, you take that square that I have there and you move it someplace else to get those same 35 parking spaces. Wouldn't it make sense to have one more tier? And again, I do believe that from a public safety point of view, I really believe there's merit to the fact that you could park your emergency vehicles up there in the event of a flood, or if a flood was coming. You put all your police and fire vehicles up there, and they don't get damaged in a flood. Otherwise, everything's going to be at street level. So you've got a wash roof, but it destroys all the cars in the process.
Well, there you're talking about building another structure, and that structure has got to be sturdy enough to handle a lot of mass, and that's not cheap. So that's something you'd have to lobby the commission with to get that done. As far as, if you want more parking, basically it's a two-story parking garage.
It's a low elevation parking garage.
Yeah.
And I like the merits. Rick went over the merits of it. I like those merits. I support it 1,000,000%, but to me, if you're gonna go half in, go all the way in. To me, it's a half step. I would either not do it, or I would build the parking garage. That's like a half step. I'm not sure that makes sense.
My object here was net zero parking, or net zero or net gain.
You got your mic on
So,
the paper.
oh, sorry. It was net zero on net gain, because I think that that's palatable to the commission. I think some members of the commission, I think their objection is to building another 100 parking spaces there, and bringing more traffic in and building a giant structure. I don't think it. I think that just building one tier above an existing parking lot, I think that could be palatable to the commission. And if that's what our recommendation is, why would you not keep the parking as compact as possible? If you can gain 35 spaces by just building one level, 8 feet up in the air, 9 feet up in the air, whatever it is, as opposed to taking that same square and putting it anywhere else, whether you put it under the building, put it over here.
Yeah, but the issue, Rick, is how do you get the cars up there? That's the trick in a parking garage. It's gonna take about 180 feet of ramp, even if it's 10 feet high, a parking level.
You have existing.
Everybody
driveway
misses
over there.
Estimates how long of a ramp you need to get cars up.
And
It's
I
a
think,
lot.
I'm gonna guess this, that the more stories you put on a garage, the lower the unit cost per parking is. If you put a one-story garage in, it's X dollars per spot.
Right.
if you put a two-story, it's not 2X, it's less than that.
Yeah, that's generally true.
Okay, I thought that was true. So if that's the case, then we would be building the most expensive parking on a per spot level by not going higher. And to me, you either got to get in it or out of it. You don't go halfway, and I wouldn't want to pay the most amount per spot. I want to get the economies of scale by going higher.
It's all about the ramps.
But
It's not much
So
dimension.
Rick,
to the
I get
ramps.
what you're saying. So if we, again, this committee is for City Hall. So if we put City Hall and, this is design that we're suggesting that the commission, take or decide on. And we also tell them, hey, we're gonna lose this many parking places by doing that. And we've looked at other things and just leave it at that. Then they may say, oh, well, then there may be some movement there. I don't know. I'm not for or against the parking garage at this point. It's just the aesthetics of it and whatnot. I just don't like that really, that look. For me, being on Main Street and with the art show and having an event there every single month, at least one per month. Many times we have two with the Sip and Stroll, or we have the art show. We have the Mural Fest now. Now we have a Kite Fest, which we're going to have again. It's going to happen every year. We've got a lot of events. We have commission meetings. We have 2 commission meetings a month, and that's inside. So yeah, we need a building. We need the room for that. But we also need the infrastructure for these events as well.
Yeah.
And a stage is a good thing. As you had pointed out, being right in the middle, I didn't like it right in the middle either. I was thinking more of a corner, kind of looking out. That way you get the entire, field of view of the entire green space. If it's that direction. If we have, and it's been pushed by a lot of people, or been suggested by a lot of people, that we have this band shell because we have so many events and we have these bands and whatnot. If we move City Hall, if we build City Hall in the northeast corner, now you got the green space opening up to the residents. And we definitely don't want our band shell facing west or south, any part of west, whether it's southwest or northwest or straight west, nothing at all. We don't want that. We see what that's happening at 142. I've had a talk with Eddie, and he's going to, muffling that down a little bit. We're working on that. But so that's where I am. My position is I think City Hall needs to go where these designers engineers have placed it. I like Mike's idea of adjusting some of the rooms there, making the bathrooms more accessible for larger events, which are our meetings and whatnot, as well as windows on the north side. That's where I stand. I will let y'all.
Can I move to a new subject?
Yeah.
And Wayne, this is something that I think we need to pay some attention to. I'm not sure how we do service deliveries to this building. You've got UPS, you've got FedEx, you've got Amazon. How are they gonna get those deliveries into this building? I've suggested to the city manager that we may think about a separate centralized shipping area where packages could be delivered. What I see a lot of times in big corporations and in the government is they get the packages there and they're x-rayed before they're actually delivered into the building, so that we're sure that what's taken in the building is safe. That's something we may want to look at, is shouldn't we have, maybe for all the city facilities, you have a separate place where deliveries are made so we can handle the traffic of all those vehicles and the safety of, should we then x-ray these packages before they get in? And the other question is how do outgoing packages get picked up? And that's something that I haven't seen.
Well, maybe maybe that's a city function that they could have them delivered to the water treatment facility.
Right.
For that matter, I mean, that's an easy, seems
It's
to be
a
an easy
policy
drop off.
decision that the staff ought to take a look at and make some decision on what we want to do. My concern now is you have all this parking under the building where you're going to have delivery vans all day long pulling in there and parking and clogging.
There needs
the-
to be another way for that to happen. I got one more thing, I'm sorry, I gotta go back, because John brought it up, and I don't know if I brought it up on the last meeting, I think when I said we need to use every cubic inch of this building for something. And the rooftop is one of those somethings. Like we didn't, as I mentioned at our last meeting, we didn't think about that when we built the parking garage, about having events up there, until we walked up there and stood and were like, wow, what a great place to watch a launch or have some sort of event. Same idea for City Hall is to have something, an area up there where we can have, events. Once a year, we host the League of Cities, right? Or not the League, it's the,
Chamber?
no, all the cities,
League of Cities.
it is League of Cities.
That's basically the League of
Yeah,
Cities.
that's right. It is League of Cities. So every year we host it, but we host it out here instead. We could do it at City Hall. Some city halls do, just a thought, or, throwing that out there.
I think that's a good idea because it's untapped potential. And if it's a flat roof, a portion of that could be made to be a contained balcony, handrailed area where you have access from probably inside the building, not from grade level because you couldn't control it, but from
Right.
inside the building, you can access this high deck. To me, it makes perfect sense.
You'd have to have an elevator though up there too, I would assume.
Just have an elevator in the second floor anyway.
Well,
Well,
there
that'd be
is-
a third floor.
Yeah, he's saying
Yeah, it's gonna fall.
you'd have to have elevator access to the roof, you're saying. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's an extra cost, but I like the idea, being able to hold an event up there and look down at the city center and look over the green space, which is our new town center. I think there's merit to that. I like that idea. Now, that's additional cost. But it's not enclosed space. I don't see it as enclosed space.
No.
It's fair weather space.
Right.
So it's
Absolutely.
not gonna be high cost. If it was enclosed space, it would be very expensive.
Yeah, that's where some of the, for lunch, the employees could go up on the rooftop and have lunch. There's lots of different things, just,
People, politicians
Yeah,
come in and see that.
I think it's sensible.
What
Yeah.
about, what about a whole different direction and a green roof? I mean, when do we start thinking about green roofs and not permeable, but rooftops with growth on them? And when do we just stop building flat surfaces and consider something a lot more environmentally friendly on the roof, something that mitigates the problem of all this impermeable surface that we have through our entire city. Or maybe you could portion it, maybe you could have a viewing area like you guys are talking about, but I really think that should be somehow taken into consideration is some kind of green mediation.
That's becoming more and more common. That's in the green building genre. I mean, green meaning environmentally friendly. It helps with climate control. I don't know what it does to the durability of the roof. I don't know if it factors into that or not, but it's definitely for energy conservation. Yeah, I think it's a good idea too.
I want to say, once again, I'm up there. One thing, when I see things like that, the drawing, move it toward A1A, you got your people in the green space, there is a safety concern you don't want to be liable about. Because you got vehicles coming all different directions, people in all directions. Somebody drives in, it wipes people out.
that's a good point.
That's my main safety concern.
That's a good point. That's one of the first things I thought of when I saw that. But we could also put up bollards around that area too, which I think we should.
But you still got kids run out playing and they'll be out right. That way, you can't, if you go on the backside, we'll see kids up there doing that. I mean, I'm just saying, safety rules, mission.
I think we're putting much too much emphasis on the bandstand when 99.9% of the time there's not going to be a band out there. And I think that the green space should be a green space and should be a town common and should be insulated and should be an oasis that we need in the middle of town, not just a green lawn on the busiest intersection in town with trucks and motorcycles and everything else going by. I'd like to have the building there to mitigate the noise in the green space. I think we seriously need a town common, a city common. No downtown anywhere is functional without some kind of a town common. And that's just my opinion. I can't favor the building and the location that's in.
I agree with that town common philosophy, and when I looked at that, I saw the town common. I see the town common there, but you're saying you like it on the backside better. The reason that I'm still favoring the existing layout is that there are going to be events, and Main Street is doing more and more and more, and I don't see that stopping. And the band stage or the band shell can save the city some money by not having to rent and logistically set up and break down that trailer stage that we bring in. We can save money by having a fixed structure. What I don't like about what we're looking at there is that the masses of people stand on Minuteman, and that stage doesn't face Minuteman, it faces Orlando. And you don't want a lot of people congregating on Orlando because that's where the two-way traffic is. That's where you infringe safety when you're pushing people out into the Orlando space. I would like to push people into the Minuteman space because that's what we do, and we do it very successfully. So I would be in favor of relocating that band stage to take advantage of the Minuteman space over the Orlando space. And I think, Tim, you mentioned about moving it, facing it like northeast. I think that's beneficial because it pushes people into Minuteman. The reason I don't like the green space where the building sits now, flipping that down, the reason I don't like that is I think if there is a band stage, you can't face it in the right direction to alleviate noise problems. You can't fix it in the back. It has to be on the front of the building to alleviate the noise problem.
Say that last part again. Say the last part again.
The noise part?
What was the last one?
Okay, well, I was focusing on noise. The noise even when the stage is on Brevard, you know, the noise carries back into the residential area, but it faces toward the ocean.
But it's echoing off the building.
Yes, and if you move that building and put the building on A1A, which I think has merits, by doing that, you gain there's some merits to that. But for me, it puts the green space back on Brevard, and if you do that, then the band shell is not, you can't orient it properly because noise will populate into the residential area. We definitely don't want that. That's a no-no. Yeah. So I think the band stage has to be on the A1A side. I think it has to be so. We can move it from where it's at, but I think it has to be on the east side of the building.
The stage will be on the south side facing north. Remember, so you got Minuteman Causeway and you got different businesses up there on Brevard, not residential. So your sound is traveling north.
I heard you say that, but in my opinion, I think that creates a noise problem that we don't currently have.
So we're orienting the entire city hall around the band stage. Doesn't make sense. This is a city hall we're going to look at for the next 50 years, and we're orienting it to face the band stage the right way. It doesn't make sense.
I think that's a good point.
Doesn't make sense at all.
But the other benefit of keeping it in its current siting is if the conversation for a garage ever comes back up, I like that configuration the best.
Yeah.
And we said it's not coming back up. We said that, but 5 years ago, we just built the parking garage, so we're done with parking garages, and now they're growing up out of the ground. So even though it looks like there's no parking garage, I'm almost certain we're gonna revisit that in the future. We're gonna revisit that. Even if we say it ain't today, we're gonna revisit it. So for that reason, I also like it in its current siting.
I'd hate to close the door on that issue.
Parking garage?
5 years from now, if we're saying, gee, if we'd only been thinking that, and we decide that there is justification for the parking deck, this would allow it to happen.
You could very easily build a parking garage right in that rectangle right there with that drain that you've told me is you
I
can
hate
go
to be
around.
argumentative,
So-
Rick, but you'll never get the ramps. You gotta have enough size,
Well, that's
enough
where we need
dimension
an
in the building
engineer.
for the ramps.
That's where we need an engineer, but where are you going to put the
I've
parking
designed a
garage
lot of
on
parking
that?
decks, my
You're already-
friend.
Sorry.
It would be right up against the building, and that's,
Well, which is exactly the space I'm talking about. And utilizing that space over, this is underutilized space. There's like 20 parking spaces with little islands and berms in there, and then there's little drain thing in the front, and then there's 10 spaces. This is underutilized space for parking. It's on Brevard Avenue. It's away from A1A. It's not the most prominent feature on the property. It could very easily be expanded northward, I guess it is, northward, to cover this drain area. And it could still be built there, but it wouldn't be the most prominent feature. But I think it's our job to make a proposal to the commission that works, and not. I think building something and designing something around something that may be built in the future is just not the way to go. I think we need to make a proposal to the commission that we think we know there's no sentiment on the commission to build a garage now.
I think that the argument is gonna be that if in the future we build a parking deck, it needs to replace that surface parking deck that's behind the fire station now, and you don't lose additional green space. It just replaces those spaces with an elevated deck.
Yeah, that's right. One of the other things that I find redeeming about the siting that we're looking at up on the diagram is, in my vision, I don't know if this will ever come true, but I always thought that if and when we could ever build a green space, that we should capitalize on our space heritage. We are the epicenter of space exploration, and that started in the 50s, and it's going on today, and it's not going to slow down. Like Tim said, we're going to have a launch a day. We're the epicenter for that, and we don't capitalize on our space heritage. So I always saw, in my mind, space artifacts in that green space that advertised our heritage. We advertise surfing, and that's great. I love it. But we should also advertise space, and that's a great place to put some monument, some artifact, something that reflects it, and people driving through Cocoa Beach on Orlando can see that. And if the green space was behind, only the residents would know about it. So that's, in my mind, another reason to leave the siting the way it is. That's just my opinion.
I could go along with that.
yeah.
I could go along with that. I
Yeah.
like that idea.
So, right, from that perspective, I mean, we look at our sister city, Cape Canaveral, that put their city hall, the biggest complaint I hear about that, I mean, it's a beautiful building, but it is right on the road.
It's
I don't know.
Palatial.
And that it is what it is, but that's basically what we're gonna do if we put it up there. We're gonna do basically the same thing. Well, there it will be again, and we want green space. We don't want where City Hall was before it was demolished. The first one, there was about 20 to 30 feet of grass between the sidewalk and the building. Well, if we build a City Hall there, we're not going to have that. It's going to be pretty close to the sidewalk. We'd have to have. So I like this idea. I like the way you presented that, John, about seeing that. The folks that are on the committee for green space are going to come up with some ideas to have that wow effect when you drive by, you say, oh, wow, look at that. What is that? Oh, that's a green space, that's our downtown, that's City Hall. Ooh, that's what we do.
Maybe somebody will stop, park in the garage that exists and have lunch.
I'm sure that'll happen. But, yeah, so,
Stealing something from the Cape Canaveral City Hall, they have that small monument of the space shuttle there. It's not that big,
Yeah.
but I see, that or two things like that in that space, and it's an eye catcher. It shows that we're the epicenter of space exploration, and people that travel through can see it, and they'll be interested in that.
Yeah.
And if the green space was on the back side, nobody's gonna even know it's there except for us. I wanna advertise that.
there are people that drive down A1A and don't know where the ocean is. I've
Well,
had
people
ask
stop me on the street
I've had
and
people
ask where the
me,
ocean is.
Where's the ocean?
East?
So if they can't see it, hey, I've opened the refrigerator door and, hey, honey, where's the milk? I can't, if I don't see it, I don't know it's
I
there.
have that same problem.
All right.
Two more short things to say. I agree with what you're saying with putting it up there. I'll explain with Wayne. You've got, I don't think it's up between 8 to 10 feet across here. I have no idea what that is right there, maybe 15 feet that way. You put this up to here, then you got a good place to put the monument right there on the corner. Remember when we talked about, you the mayor, we talked about the location of the garage, the parking, the police department?
Yeah.
You know what my suggestion was? To put it back, where my suggestion was for the building. You agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
About that. Now, one thing also, I don't know what the cost for the, every, Friday, different events for, porta potties. Is that the city's expense or is that somebody else's?
That's our expense.
Okay, why not build restrooms under the city hall building?
That's the plan. That's on there as well.
It's in there, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing the park also the same floor.
Yeah, it would be on, yeah, there they are, in the upper left-hand
It's
corner.
actually here.
I've never seen the first floor in the parking area.
Yeah,
This is the parking area here, John. Here's the stage. Here's the community room. Actually, you guys are calling it Freedom 7 room, but it's actually
community room, yeah.
room. And the restrooms are right here.
Yeah, that's
So-
what I'm saying.
so that's
one thing.
exactly
I can
what
see
we're
that,
talking
that
about.
little, but yeah.
Yeah.
But again, if you move this walkway up there to the street or this or that, whatever to it, then you got a place to put your monument up there. You got the monument and then the city hall building right in front of it.
So this meeting's scheduled till 5:30. What you guys have to do, because this can go on forever.
Yeah.
Is the next meeting, which will be the final meeting, you've got to get to me. I would cut it down to, say, 3 main topics that each one of you, or issues that you have, whatever you want to call it, so that we can scope this down to, Tim, you've got 3, Ricky, you've got 3, John, Mike, and get that to me at this next meeting, and we can kind of bring everybody's thoughts together in that manner.
Could you just put this diagram up again? This, like I just want to point one little thing out. I could go along with the green space in front. I do see the merits of that. I wouldn't want any of that parking there. I think, if possible, all of that parking should be gone. And the only thing that might cause an issue is that 10 of those spaces are already there. So you're eliminating 10 parking spaces that are already there across from the fire station. You're actually, well, that driveway is actually pretty wide. How wide is that driveway? The driveway is approximately 25 feet wide if you were to take those parking spaces away. Okay, so is that wide enough for emergency vehicles? Maybe so, because these are parking spaces anyway. But I do want to point out, and I would, if the green space is there, I personally wouldn't want to see any parking there.
Well, I think Mike's proposal took that surface parking away, so I think we've achieved that. It felt like we all kind of supported that.
As long as that leaves enough clearance for that driveway that's already there, You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, I know where you're-
10 of those, you'd be taking away 10 of those spaces that are directly across from the fire station.
So you're gonna keep some of that, though?
I would want all of.
You can come back,
That driveway, where my shadow is,
Yeah.
that's 25 feet wide.
yeah,
Okay, these 10 spaces here already exist.
yeah.
I would want to find a way to get rid of them, because I would want that whole area to be the green space. In other words, I don't want to leave 10 parking spaces along there, and then have the green space behind it.
Those spaces, I think, are still used, but I think primarily they were for the old police department, but that's now across the street.
Yeah.
I think primarily that was police
Yeah, I
parking.
thought that, did
Well,
they get
There
demolished?
were cars in there every time I was
I
down there.
know, that parking is still
Yeah.
used, but I
Yeah.
think that actually was police parking, and it's
Yeah.
no longer required. And Mike said he can get his more cars under the footprint of the building than what that surface parking allows. It's like a 1-for-1 or something, right, or close to.
Pretty close.
Close to. So I think we can safely eliminate all of
So
that.
you-
And for me, one of my drivers is I felt the green space was too small. We got one shot to put this town square in, and I just felt it was, when the building showed up, it's not as big as I thought. But by taking that section, now my needs are satisfied, because now we can get a larger town center, and I think that's gonna be used by everybody. There won't be one person in the city that doesn't enjoy that space. So by expanding it under Mike's plan, my desire was met.
Long-term,
Ju-
I'd like to see that driveway go away.
ju-
If we build a parking deck, we have a few spaces under the fire station, but we can move those into a parking deck and get rid of that driveway entirely, and have everything come into the deck, and have all of the driveways out of there, increase the green space.
Yes, I like that too. And if there ever was a parking deck in there, I don't know if it's smart to have access to 2 parking garages off of the same road.
No.
It seems like it would choke that road up, because the parking garage is on the other side of the road there. So I think if we ever built this new one, you maybe come in off of Brevard perhaps.
Yeah, you have to.
Okay, you don't want to come off of the
Well,
same.
that creates a lot of traffic there.
Well, it would, but Orlando. you
Well,
got-
think about how you get to that too. You either get to it from Minuteman or First Street South. And First Street South, that goes right by a transfer station or a transfer
Yeah,
station.
There's no access.
That's a good point too.
There's no access.
Substation, yeah.
There's no access from First Street South, is there? There's a fence along the back of the city property there, isn't there? And then
No,
there's-
that's not First
Then there's some, well,
First Street's
okay.
by Sunoco.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
gas station.
okay, so I mean, anyway, notwithstanding, John, the first time that you and I met at Citizens Academy and we interviewed each other, the first thing I said was that my passion is the town common.
You're the first guy I heard say that.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
We're
That's
talking 5 years ago,
Wow.
and my passion is the town common. My passion is the green space. Okay, this is why I thought that the green space would be better there. I can see merits to it there, but my passion is still the green space.
Absolutely.
I think we're maybe coming to some consensus.
I think so.
On the current siting of the building, leaving the building square. We've expanded the green space by going to the south, by getting rid of that 35 spot surface parking. So we've made the green space larger. We've retained the potential in the future to put the parking garage adjoining to the city hall in the future if it ever comes back up again. And the green space is visible off of Orlando, which is our pass-through traffic. If we put any kind of space memorabilia out front, everybody can see it. The only thing that I would add to what I just said is I like Tim's idea of reorienting the band shell, because I think the viewers of that band shell are predominantly on Minuteman, so it needs to face a little bit more closely toward Minuteman.
Yeah. And I was thinking about, it was mentioned about the sound bouncing off the buildings. If we had the appropriate foliage there, that would diffuse that sound also. And we don't have anything like that. All we have right now, we've got the palm trees and
You got
whatnot.
trees, something.
But that sound just goes right down Minuteman right now. And it's gonna do the same thing. It's gonna, right, if we do that, it's just gonna bounce off, basically remix across the street and come back down. So there's gotta be some sort of diffusion of that noise or sound coming off of that, which, that's down the road. But I think we're all in consensus there with that.
I think
Part.
everybody here has put an idea in that's
Yeah.
ended up in the final picture. I kind of like where this is going, and we haven't addressed fully putting a viewing deck on the roof. I think that's going to cost us money, but long-term it has value.
Yeah.
I think we should do that. Now, that doesn't reflect here, but I would think that would be one of our recommendations.
And this is semi off, but kind of on topic. One of the problems, when I went up on top of the parking garage and you look out, hey, yeah, you got this view, but you're actually looking at it looks like a third world country with all the power lines and going like, it was like spaghetti, just going everywhere. And that needs to be addressed, about getting the power lines underground. So if we can do that when we're putting this in, if we can get power lines underground instead of poles next to a building, that would be fantastic.
I think that's a great idea.
Because
That's
you
the-
don't want to be standing on the building and looking right at a transformer.
It also,
That's just defeats the purpose.
it does, but it also serves to harden the utility.
Absolutely.
They harden the utility, it's got multiple benefits.
Yeah.
And I would like to ask one thing of Mike, architect Mike. This is a flat roof, which is very common, but flat roofs can pond. I mean, they're not truly flat, they can pond, they can hold water. Holding water is not a good long-term thing for roof integrity. Does it make any sense to have a very slight pitch to it? Even though it's flat, it can still be pitched. Does it make sense to do that?
Well, it'll pitch the drain, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll pitch the drain.
The mini slopes, so certain square footage with drains.
Quarter inch per foot.
Mini slopes.
Pretty
Okay.
standard, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it was, I know it's flat, but I thought it was also horizontal.
gonna use it to have.
Well, that's another complication
Yeah.
that somebody have to take a look at. You're talking about a paved area, you're talking about a green roof, which,
Yeah.
So guys, we got to decide, it's almost 5:30.
Yeah.
When do you want to meet again? And you've got to scope, each one of you has to get three major things that you want to, three major comments that you want to pass on to the architect.
I think we're
That's
pretty close.
essentially what the purpose of this.
One more, the next meeting, I think we'll have that. I think, I like the fact that you guys made drawings. I didn't have time
So-
to put that together, but I.
So-
can we summarize what we
redraw it.
agreed on today?
Pardon?
Can we summarize what we agreed on today?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
That for now, the footprint and the location of the building
Is where
is
Jacobs has put it,
Yeah.
right?
Uh,
We
That
have
we're
a
gonna try to
consensus?
simplify this plan
If
and
somebody
move the
wants
offices
to,
to
if
the
somebody
north.
wants to get that together and send me an email, then we can,
Yeah, John's writing it down right now, aren't you?
Yes,
okay?
Right? Do we have consensus of windows on the north side?
I agree with that.
Because there'll
Moving
be
the
no.
offices to the north, flipping it over, so
Yeah.
like this diagram.
Right. So moving it,
But you have to have a hallway on the north side where people can stand. It can't be offices, it has to be a hallway, it has to be windows and a hallway, right? You have to be able to walk up and down that where people can gather. That would change the floor plan. It's not just windows, you have to have a hallway.
yeah. Well, there's a meeting room. Actually, they have the meeting room right over there.
Get upper level people on the windows and the other people on the inside, so you make a hallway between the upper levels on the windows.
Yeah.
So it's hard to see here, but here's the band shell, so the ocean's here. So this is the north side, the commission room's on the north side, but if you have windows across here, you have to have a hallway where people could go to. They have to be, this is not drawn that way. It's all private, closed door space.
How about this? I mean, if you're gonna decide with the windows on, maybe put your employees there. Maybe make the environment as friendly as possible for the people who have to work in there, so they have a window to look out.
They all do.
That's what I'm saying.
They all do. That open space there. So we talked about that. We've talked about the band shell being in in the southwest corner facing northeast.
I just said relocated.
Relocated.
Yeah, let the architects come back with a proposal.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to come up with high-level recommendations.
Yeah.
You can't get into the weeds on this window has to be here or there. or
Yeah, no,
anything like that.
no.
Yeah,
Well, moving the band shell probably plays into the green space committee. They would have to get that, because they don't know about that. They're working on that. They would have to get that,
and
And we're
Yes,
agreed
sir.
that we want to eliminate the parking that's in the green space.
yeah, absolutely, 1,000%. But I also think in doing so, I think that the plan has got to be, at the minimum, it needs to be net zero parking. It needs to be no loss of existing parking, and if anything, a slight gain. So this is what we're gonna have to present to the commission. So if that includes a small structure in order to get to net zero, then we have to, it's up to us to recommend it, and if the commission shoots it down, they shoot it down. But I think we need to present a plan that at least keeps the level of parking where it is as far as number of spaces.
Okay, so just
which is
write that
81,
down.
by the way.
I'm writing everything down that's
Okay.
being said.
And then I heard move the structure to whatever you know, but you gotta get me the major talking points here tonight, so. What else?
We're all in agreement with the community center stays?
Yes.
And we had a comment on that, okay. And we're all in agreement that we want to take seriously this observation deck on the roof level?
Yes, I do.
I do, I do.
Let's just, again, that's,
I'll write that. What else did we come up with?
I would still like to consider making part of the roof green, if it's possible.
When you say green, what do you mean by green?
Well, they grow things on roofs.
Okay.
Cities.
That's
grow-
what I was-
Cities grow things on roofs because,
I like that. But that goes along with, yeah, that's beautiful and it looks wonderful, but if you have power lines all over the place,
oh, I'm with you,
again, it defeats the purpose. So that,
100% with you on that, yeah.
Also maintenance.
there's maintenance.
Let me ask about something that Mike's sketch here, okay? Mike, help me out. The sketch that he presented?
Yeah.
Does this have the bathrooms and the conference public meeting rooms closer together per John's comment?
Yeah,
think it
here's
does.
the meeting room,
Okay.
I didn't move the toilet rooms, I said,
Yeah.
they should be here by the entry, by the
Okay.
lobby, they're in the
All right,
right
so
place.
I've captured that then, okay.
But the only thing I tried to do was get back to a simple rectangle here on the plan, and just bulge it out where the entry is.
So as
Just say,
opposed to
go
that
by
maze there.
Go by this plan.
Did you have a number of parking spaces that you thought would fit into the building?
I think it was 32.
32.
There are 81 spaces there now. Altogether, counting the little lot behind the fire, the 10 along there, the 10 along there, and what's in the vacant parking lot now, there are a total of 81 parking
Yeah,
spaces.
but we're not
When
taking,
you say now, do you say right now you can park
As-
84 cars there, or on that?
As this little diagram right here, which is what's right there now, and counting this parking lot here, there's a couple along there. You got this parking lot here, count all the spaces there, count those 10, count those 10, count those 22, it adds up to 81.
Okay.
okay, I'm at a little quandary here.
Why?
32 doesn't replace 81.
I know.
Well, you're not losing the 30 over there behind the fire
There's
station.
Right, these are 22 over here behind the
We
fire
don't lose them,
station.
so that's,
And
now we're down to-
there's 32 there, so if you use that space for the 32 existing parking spaces there,
We're not
then you
displacing
need
that.
to,
How many are we displacing?
well, 81 minus 32, it's almost 50 parking spaces.
So-
Displacing
so
all the spaces there.
No.
displacing
So
it there.
at this point,
He's talking about 30
I would
underneath
make
the
a
building.
general comment.
I'm not talking about underneath the building.
Yeah,
Well, you
you're
said-
getting into the actual design here.
Yeah.
We're making
Okay.
high-level recommendations.
So
to the
30,
arch-
and, 30 under the building plus 32
Recommendations to the
there.
point where it's
Leaves you 19
maximize
short.
parking without infringing on green space, something to that effect.
Okay, the comment was no net loss of parking.
Yeah, that-
And I was
that's-
trying to ascertain if
yeah.
we did or did not meet that objective. But,
Yeah.
okay.
If there's 30 under the building and there's 32 that you're leaving, no, you're 19 short.
Okay, so how many line items do you have there? How many bullet points?
I have, the footprint stays where it is.
Don't count them, he just wants a number.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I was looking for concurrence, but I have 7.
So get close to 10, if, I'd get to like 10-ish, 10 bullet points. And,
Okay, I have 7.
okay, then we're,
And,
Then we're
and,
good? 'Cause
and
we're
we can
over
send,
here.
we
We
can,
gotta-
you can
we gotta
send
wrap
those out
this
to
up.
all of us.
I can send,
Yeah.
I have to
So-
do that.
But we're not to respond back and forth
No,
with
we
the
can't.
comments.
Correct.
right, it's, exactly, so 2 questions. Do you want to meet again, and if you do, when?
I'm gonna vote that we meet again, and I'm wondering if can that plot plan be changed according to some of these recommendations to see what it would look like? Can they do that? Don't go in and rearrange all the office space. Can they do the high-level site plan?
They're not going to do anything.
No?
They're going to charge us for it.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll put it on a piece of graph paper, like,
Well, I was
The old way.
To look like that. Okay,
well, no,
all
I
right.
can't
Is
do
this
it
in a
that way. but-
PDF?
Everything's
Is this
on.
in a PDF? Is it in a PDF file? Or is,
Or JPEG.
Yeah, it's online. You can get it. You can.
I know, but I didn't know what form it's online. Is it a,
It's a PDF online.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you can print it out. You
or I can, yeah.
Yeah, you can just save it onto a flash drive, and whatever you want to do, it's there. All right. So when do we want to meet? Now Mike's
Name
going to
the
be
time.
gone. So I'm assuming we either meet again this week, or we meet on the 3rd of April.
Yeah, I'll be back.
April 3rd, I can meet.
April 3rd it is.
It's a Monday, April 3rd.
Yeah.
Yep, done. You name the time.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
And then it goes to the commission on the,
There's something in between. I
Sixth.
have to check exactly. I'll put it in the invitation. I believe Robin wanted to get the 2 committees together somehow.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
so
think that's
I
a
have to
good- I
double
think-
check on what the exact plan is
I think
here.
that's a really good idea, actually.
Yeah, so let me do that, and I'll shoot for April 3rd at 4 o'clock in here. I got to make sure this room's available. I got to make sure, I'm assuming everybody here is available
If it can be earlier, it'd be great.
earlier in the day.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Can we do it earlier?
I can do it early.
Works for me.
What time are you thinking?
I'm thinking 1 o'clock.
That's fine.
1, okay, Mike?
Yeah.
1 o'clock it is.
Doesn't matter to me.
I can do 1.
Okay.
Are you teaching?
I'm the test coordinator,
Oh,
so I don't
test-
have actual classroom.
Oh, okay, so you have some flexibility,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
1 o'clock?
Yeah,
1 o'clock, all right. Let me
make it 1.
So that is.
So at this point, we don't each have to come up with our 3 hot buttons, because we kind of have almost a
You're gonna
consensus.
type that up
we
and
could-
send it to all of us, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So John, at that meeting, you got to finalize, your high-level
Yeah.
comments and whatnot. So I'll plan on an hour. How's that sound? 1 to
Most
2?
of them are there.
I think yeah,
Most of them
I'm
are there.
gonna,
I think 1.5 would be good again.
What's that?
1.5?
You want 1.5?
Yeah.
So that would be.
May not go that long.
1 to 2:30. I just have to double check on the Freedom 7 activities.
I'll kick them out.
Let me check on it.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
since it's open to, let me double check. I'll get back to everybody individually.
Wayne, when you sent out the itinerary, are all the email addresses available? It's not BCC, is it? Is it CC where I can see all the addresses? I didn't look for that. They're not.
No,
here.
what I sent you was an invitation, an Outlook invitation.
Yeah, but
to
you
the
sent it
meeting.
to all of us. Are all the addresses there, or
No.
they're not there? Okay, so I'm.
Just
gonna
the
need all-
names.
Okay, I'm gonna need your email address. Because I don't think.
We'll send it to Wayne and he'll send it to us.
Okay, that's,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, just send it directly to my.
Okay, that's,
email.
all right, I'll send it to you, and then you distribute it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
very good.
All right, guys, we're good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. I mean, obviously, everybody's passionate about this, and we ran over, and so it's all good, good ideas, and, you know, I'm around, you know, if you got you guys can just come over, call me, whatever, email me.
You know, this is only our second meeting, and already we've come to some consensus with 4 people with different ideas. I find that to be actually fairly quick. Now, next week, there'll probably be some banner around, but we've kind of already agreed to these 7 high-level principles. I think
I don't
that's,
think there's gonna be much added to
Should be
that or
open to the
changed
public.
about it.
it'll soak in, maybe something will.
Yeah, that's the idea. Let it percolate a little bit and we'll come in, oh, we didn't think of this or
Yeah.
yeah, there'll be something.
Well, I think it's good that the bulk of it got done today, so that the next meeting is just kind of a finalize. It's just kind of a polish the edges instead of deferring all of the heavy arguments discussions until the last meeting.
I think we've covered enormous ground today. I'm walking away pleased. I
Me
thought
too.
we would not
Me
even
too.
be remotely this close. That's what I thought, but you know what? Each one of us put out a good idea, and it all came together.
Yeah.
All right, guys, you good?
Kicking us out, Wayne?
Yeah,
My
I
wife's
think he
waiting-
is.
my wife's waiting
I think
for
he's
me
been
for
trying for
dinner.
10 minutes.
Oh, are you not eating at the 19th hole?
It's not open, is it?
Oh, geez,
Well,
what?
this is at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, we're not gonna segue into that.